Wow, a very good morning, everybody. Hello. It's so great to see how busy it is this morning. Are you all excited? Now, I hope you all have your questions at the ready. I am so privileged and I'm so excited to present this morning's guest. We have lots of questions underway and lots of surprises as well. So please help me in welcoming to the stage Pam Ayres.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Hello.
It's so busy. Look at you all.
I know. I'm always terrified nobody's going to come. So thank you all very much.
We've paid them. Don't worry. Okay, so Pam, as we're on a ship and we're traveling around at the moment, what is your favorite type of travel?
Well, I really like cruising. I'm not just saying it because I'm on this lovely ship and you've given me a nice cabin. I'm not just stateroom, I should say, stateroom. No, I really like cruising because I've got an unfortunate history of having littered my belongings around the hotels of the world, really. You know, and because it's easy to leave things if you're going from hotel to hotel. But on a cruise ship, you just get on and unpack your things, and then all the lovely places come to you, and that's what I like. And my husband once gave me a lovely gold fountain pen, a gold one, my dears, because I love writing, and I've got a collection of fountain pens, and it was so stupid. We were in Las Vegas, and we were going out for the day, and I didn't want my gold pen to be stolen, so I put it under the mattress. You know, really a really original idea. And then I forgot it, and I left. I left at Las Vegas, and I left my pen under the mattress, and of course nobody had found it. And so the thing about a cruise is that you don't have that sort of problem. You just get on, and everything comes to you, and you don't have to keep moving on. I actually wrote a poem about flying, because I don't like flying very much. So I'd like to do a little bit of, if that's all right.
Please. Oh,
please. This is how I feel about long-haul flights in particular. At the airport running late, I've never been in such a state. Which is our departure gate? It's teeming, streaming. I am close to screaming. Everywhere a sense of panic. Asian, African, Hispanic. Scan the boards with eyeballs manic. Blowing. Glowing. I wish I wasn't going. Passport on the check-in shelf. Have you packed this all yourself? No, it was Santa and his elf. Oh, never be clever. No humor whatsoever. She gestures off. I see the view. Another endless shuffling queue. Security's a glimpse of hell. Here's my liquid, here's my gel, here's my shoes. They're hot, they smell. Profess them, confess them, let the man assess them. Then through the scanner you must trot. Will you ring the bell or not? Yes, stand aside or else be shot. They'll search you, besmirch you, on a screen research you. Can I touch you? If you must. Providing you're devoid of lust. Come, pat me down, come stroke my bust, inspect me, protect me, don't let the bombs affect me. Your blue-gloved hands and steely eyes keep me safe while in the skies. At last, the aircraft toilet's free. Now everyone can wait for me. Oh, no. I haven't finished yet. I'll have to go back to the beginning. You've completely thrown me now. At last, the aircraft toilet's free. Now everyone can wait for me. Oh, the floor's awash. I think it's we. It's whittle, piddle. Someone missed the middle. In the mirror, some old hag Don't bother with the makeup bag or think of lighting up a fag. I'm crabby. Well, it's shabby. You couldn't swing a tabby. Dare I flush? Fight down my fear. That roar to paralyze your ears and suck you to the stratosphere, reeling, squealing, clinging to the ceiling. Oh, I hate these squalid aircraft loos and wish that I had worn my shoes. Thank you.
Well, where do we go from there, everybody?
We've all done it though, haven't you? In
It's
an
true.
aircraft, you go along in your socks and then you're sorry that you didn't put your shoes on.
So what I want to know after that, Pam, is do you get struck with an idea when you write your poems, or are these all on personal experiences?
It can be either. You know, some of them are complete flights of fancies. I just get a daft idea. And other times it's from something I've overheard, often from a situation that I've been embarrassed by or annoyed by or irritated by. And then I think, well, this is really bugging me and I bet it bugs other people as well. And it might be worth trying to write something about it. One thing, I don't want to keep monopolising the conversation, but
Please.
One of the things I've just written, because it explains itself really. It's about shopping online. It's called I'll Have to Send Them Back. Those shoes.
Oh, she's up.
Yeah, I'm up. I can't. I'm not very good at doing these poems sitting down. I like to stand up and wave my arms about, you know. I don't know if I can get through this, but this is an example because I bought some shoes. This is what happened. Those shoes, they look so beautiful, so stylish and refined. A little motif on the front, a shapely heel behind. I ordered them and waited for the courier to call. Delivery was swift. He threw them straight across the wall. Soaring through the air they came and landed with a thud. Thanks a lot, I shouted and retrieved them from the mud. But the parcel had arrived and that had blown away the blues. For what is more uplifting than a nice new pair of shoes, wrapped in tissue paper, white as snow, the footwear lay. I picked them up admiringly and turned them every way. I placed them on the carpet and with luxury they shone. But having these gigantic feet, I couldn't get them on. I'll have to send them back. I'll have to send them back. The ruddy things are useless. I'll have to send them back. Down the post office, I'll be glaring at the clock, standing in a queue that's going halfway around the block. I'm done with it, online shopping. It's just a loser's game. The goods all look enticing, but they go back just the same. Although, that is a lovely dress. That is a lovely dress before me on the screen. I need one for the wedding, and that's the nicest one I've seen. Yeah, I could cut a dash in that. I'd be dressed to kill. The model's only 17 and beautiful, but still. Where'd I put my credit card? My little plastic friend. Next day delivery. That'll do it. Send. Okay. So to answer your question, Alex, that I wrote that just recently. I don't say it's one of my greatest works, but it came about because I sent away for these shoes and they looked lovely and I couldn't get my great big feet into them, so that's why I wrote that. And so it was just that I'd sent away for some shoes and they were hopeless.
I love this. This is great. So when you write your poems, do you write them at home or do you kind of have a little routine that you like to do?
I do.
Oh, you do?
I have an office. I'd like to say it's meticulously organised and tidy, but it's not. I have an office and I go in there And I said, I'm really lucky because I was able to make a pond outside. It's got French windows, and then we put in a pond outside so I can watch the wagtails come and have a bath, and I can watch the dragonflies and everything. So it's really lovely. And I try and write something, most days. I try to, and a lot of it's rubbish, but every now and then you get one that I'm really pleased with. So I write in the mornings. I haven't got much go in the afternoon, but I've got more go in the morning.
So what I'm interested to know, what is your house like?
What's my house like?
Yeah, because if you've got a lovely office.
Yeah, I know, it is a nice house. I was brought up in a council house in Stamford-in-the-Vale, in the village of Berkshire, and it was a very modest home, and there was nothing wrong with that. And I'm the youngest of 6 children, and my dad worked for the electricity board. And when I think about it now, it was a very primitive sort of setup. We had 2 rooms downstairs and 3 rooms upstairs, and no bathroom, and no sanitation, and no hot water. We just had a cold tap, and everybody used to wash at the kitchen sink, and there was a round pack of Gibbs toothpaste that everybody used to use. And it was horrible, really, when you think about it, because at night, nobody could face going outside to the outside lavatory to answer the call of nature. And so under all the beds, there was a squat white chamber pot, or po, under most people's beds. But on the landing, for a man-sized piddle, there was an enamel bucket which stood ready, and where father, home from the pub, would stand to urinate thunderously like a horse. And in the morning, it was not unusual to see a head of foam on the bucket. It was quite extraordinary. But I mean, when I think about it now, it's amazing we didn't all get cholera, because all these receptacles were brought down and emptied into a bucket, and then a big hole was dug in the garden, and it was all tipped into a hole in the garden, and that was it. And I didn't know anybody who had better facilities, not until I was 14 and we moved to a bigger council house. So, so it was a very modest home, but a happy home. And then when I sold a lot of books and suddenly found I could have a house of my own, it was extraordinary. And I bought a little house for £11,500, if you can believe it. And then, I met my husband, and we were able to afford a bigger house. And when it came to sell it, it was really sad, because we brought up our family there, and it was a beautiful house, and it had 4 fields, so I could keep animals, which I'm very interested in. And it was horrible showing people round, to sell my home that we'd lived in for 28 years. And one time, my husband, there was a house, and then there was a little yard, and then there was a coach house. And in the coach house, there was a stable and a coach house, and above it, there was an ostler's flat. And as we didn't have a horse, a coach, or an ostler, my husband decided that he would convert it to an office. And so the back wall of this building faced north, so it had no windows because it was cold. So my husband, who was very, very supportive of me, put up 3 pictures that were significant in my career. He blew up these pictures and he put them all in the same frame so they'd look nice along this bare wall. And the first one was a photograph of me taken from the programme of the Royal Variety Performance in 1977. And so he blew that up, and there it was with the lions and the unicorns and everything. And then I played Sydney Opera House on 2 occasions, and so he blew up a lovely poster from outside Sydney Opera House saying Pam Ayres main concert hall, blah-de-blah-de, so that went up next. And then the last one was a picture of me receiving the MBE. So there I am in a big hat, we're holding up my medal, and so these big pictures were all lined up along the wall. And this family were being shown round the house with a view to buying it. And the man came in first through my husband's office. And he walks in like this, and his wife and family were behind him, and I was standing back out the way. And he walks in and he looks at all these pictures, and he says to his wife, "God, they're keen on Pam Ayres round here." Yes. But it was sad. It was ever so sad to leave that house. It was really sad. I've got a long poem about downsizing, but I don't know if we got time to do it, Alex.
Yes, you've got all the time. I might just, I think I should just... Go for it. We're here. We've got time if you want to do it.
Okay. I think anybody who has left a much-loved family home will identify with it. I'll have to stand up. I feel sort of inhibited if I sit down. It seemed... No, that's another poem. Just a minute. See the driveway to our house, now strewn with leaves and softly black. Today I travel down it, and I won't be coming back. A hand is on my heart that feels so desolate and cold. Our home for half a lifetime, it is over, it is sold. In this house I cried and thought my heart would surely break, and felt more joyful happiness than was my share to take. This home wherein for 30 years we flourished and we shone, is all to be dispersed, is to be scattered and be gone. We were as they are today. We're young and confident and brash. And we ran among the rooms in the excitement, in the dash, in the thrill of exploration. And our children sang with joy. They have come to take our place, this little girl, this little boy. Shall I tell them? Shall I tell them there are bulbs already peeping? Shall I ask them to tread lightly where my faithful dogs are sleeping? Shall I point to little saplings which to mighty trees have grown, or slip away in silence, let them make the place their own? Young men from the furniture removal company will sweep away all traces of my family and me. Agreements are in place which I can never now rescind. We are blown away like pollen, like the pollen on the wind. The native birds are singing as they sing here every day. Oh, who will feed my little birds when I am far away? The people, they are restless. I am realizing fast already in this house, I am a figure from the past. Oh, I will move to some town distant. I could not go by this place. Could not stare down the drive, would have to turn away my face. For I loved it as a friend, but now must learn to dwell apart from my home, my former home, my home embedded in my heart. Well, it's sad, isn't it? It's sad. Thank you. Thank you.
So you mentioned earlier in your house that you had these photos put up, and one of those photos was in Australia. Can you touch on what you were doing in Australia? Because that sounds extremely
interesting. I've done 12 long tours of Australia, and it was lovely, really. What can I tell you about it? The extraordinary thing was, I wrote this poem called I Wish I Looked After Me Teeth. And when I went to Australia and New Zealand for the first time, there'd been a roundup of winners of Opportunity Knocks, because I was on Opportunity Knocks in 1975. And there'd been a roundup of winners program, and it had gone to Australia. And so people knew about me before I got there. And I was telling the audience the other morning that it was extraordinary because I'd never been there. It was thousands and thousands of miles from my home, and yet I walked out on the stage and they all shouted out, give us that one about the teeth. It was an extraordinary time. And I started off going around the country towns. We started in Adelaide, then when we went to Port Pirie and Port Augusta and Mildura and all these lovely country towns, and Whyalla, and I played Whyalla Football Club. I bet not many people can say that. And it was magical. And then afterwards I became better known, and I was able to play the big theatres as well in all the major cities. So no, they've been very kind to me in Australia, and I love the country, It's so vast and so sparsely populated. And when you live in a country that's so crowded, as we are, to get out in those big open spaces and there's nothing but eucalyptus trees from you to the horizon, it was really nice, yes. I wrote a poem about the platypus, but I won't do it because I want to hear some questions from the audience as well. I don't want to monopolise the thing. But and the last time I went to Australia, I will just say this, the last time I went to Australia, sorry Alex.
I'm loving it. I could just sit here and listen to you all day. Don't say sorry, I'm having the best time.
Oh, I'm so pleased. I will just say this. The last time I went to Australia was to a friend's wedding. And he was the person who had invited me out. He was at that time the boss of the South Australian Arts Council. And the South Australian Arts Council in 1977 invited me to go out and do those country towns. And so we've been friends ever since. And he got married recently, and I was asked if I'd go to the wedding and say a few words. And so it's a long way to go, but he's a very special friend, and so we did go. We went out, and we only went out for 10 days, and he'd asked me if I'd say a few words, but it was tricky. It was tricky because he'd been married twice before, you know. So all the good wishes had been wished, yeah, and they hadn't worked. And I had this, and it occurred to me I could use a verse which I wrote many years ago for a greetings card manufacturer, which goes, "Good luck on your wedding day. I think you're bold and plucky. And as the other two have failed, let's hope it's third time lucky." But no, I didn't say that in the end. I said something much more bland in the end, I did.
Okay, I think, should we ask them, see if they've got any
Absolutely,
questions?
yeah, of course,
Are you ready,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen? So if you do have there's one already, look. So if we do have some mic roamers. If you do have a question... Great.
Oh, good, because my hearing's not very good now, so you'll have to bellow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. That's the one I was talking about, but I didn't want to.
No, I think we should have the platypus.
Okay, right. Right. One thing I have found is that, as I said this the other day when I was talking to the audience, that if you go to another country, it's greatly appreciated if you write something about them, that you don't turn up with the same old stuff that you say everywhere else. You've taken the trouble to write something specifically for that country. And as soon as you get off the aeroplane, there's always somebody from the newspaper saying, "Have you written anything about us?" And it's nice if you can say yes. So I went to a place called the Healesville Sanctuary near Melbourne in 1977, and it was a kind of zoo. But like many zoos, like most zoos at that time, it wasn't very nice. Things were just shut in cages. There was no natural habitat provided for them at all. So there were animals just shut in cages, and they had a duck-billed platypus, and it was in a tank, a glass aquarium, like a coffin on legs. And it was out in the open. And the platypus is a very shy, nocturnal creature. And it was panic-stricken. It was just swimming up and down, looking for somewhere to hide, and there was nowhere. But it did enable me to have a good look at it. And I did find it a very curious creature. I have to say now that the Healesville Sanctuary is a showpiece. It's a lovely modern zoo now, and they've got natural habitats for everything. But in the 70s, it wasn't very nice. Anyway, this is a poem I wrote, and people in Australia liked it, and some teachers set it to music, and they sing it, and it's quite rhythmic. You can dance if you like. The duck-billed platypus, small aquatic friend, made from the pieces God had over at the end. According to his reckoning, he'd not been wrong before. He hadn't made enough. He needed one mammal more. So he looked in all the corners of his cupboard, large and bare, a little foot here and a little nose there, a scrap of fur, a feather, nothing anyone would miss. And God said, "Oh, good God, yes, what can I make out of this?" There was a funny flat tail and a great enormous beak which had lain in the cupboard for a year and a week, 4 webbed feet in the manner of a duck, and hanging on the peg a furry overcoat for luck. Well, the turn of the platypus came to be fitted. God sat him down and he honestly admitted that the finished platypus might appear a little odd, but look on the bright side of it, said God. You can swim in the river, you can paddle in the creek, you can tackle anybody with a great big beak. There's a tail for a rudder or alternatively legs. And by way of consolation, you got babies and eggs. So God took all the pieces into workshop 1, and there he told the men the kind of thing he wanted done. The carpenter and plumber stroked the platypus's neck and said, well, don't upset him, he can't run, but he can peck. So the platypus was made and his beak was firmly rooted, and God found him a home where he would not be persecuted. They wrapped him up and sent him with his tail neatly furled in a brown paper parcel marked Australia, the world. Yes. Oh, thanks.
Oh, I think we have a question just down here at the front.
Hello.
You were a star when I was at school because there was Fawlty Towers, there was Queen, Elton John, and there was you. And
Where was this? Sorry.
at school.
At school?
At secondary school. I'm not that much younger than you. But you became very big very quickly, and you became a real meme in the playground. So everybody was quoting you. Did you realise the effect that you were having on the country at large? Or was it a surprise to you, and how did it change your life?
No, I didn't ever see myself as a poet, really. Thank you for the question. I never saw myself as a poet. I never set out to be a poet. I didn't know anything about poetry. I still know very little about poetry. And I just wanted to be a performer, and I loved writing, and I wanted something to say that suited my sense of humour and my accent, which I wasn't going to shake off. I mean, it's a bit of a mixed blessing having an accent like mine, because, you get mocked. But if I had tried to get rid of it, what an idiot I would have looked when I went home, and my granny and mum and dad and brothers and sisters were all speaking with the same accent. And if I'd gone home with some sort of received pronunciation, So... No, I just wanted to be a performer. I couldn't find anything to say that other people had written, and so it occurred to me that I could try writing for myself, but I never thought of it as poetry. I never thought of it as easy. I'm not saying it was easy, because it isn't. It isn't. You need a grasp of English and of a good vocabulary, and, you come at things from the right angle. But I was always astounded, and frankly still am, to be described as a poet. I tell you, I loved it. I don't know much about poetry, but one thing that I really loved and I discovered when I was 12 was Spike Milligan's song, The Wormwood Scrubs Tango. Has anybody heard of it? Oh, I thought it was wonderful. And that was the first time I sort of realised that you could string words together in a way that could convulse people with laughter. And it went, it's about this man who gets nicked for pinching cars. One day a copper fella spotted me, a-fiddling round with that ignition key. He said, you're just the bloke we need to fill a space in Wormwood Scrubs. And now I lie awake and watch the stars behind a great big set of iron bars. I hear the motors going by, and here am I in Wormwood Scrubs. And that was it. There was lots more to it, but I thought it was hilarious. I loved it and wrote it out and decorated it and everything. And then I was a great devotee of Spike Milligan from then on. But as far as poetry went, I didn't know very much at all. I didn't feel drawn to it because we were a very modest sort of family, working class family. Poetry didn't really enter into our lives. It was something we thought was for the upper classes, Does that answer the question? I hope it does, yeah. I talked myself into a verbal cul-de-sac there. So.
else got any? I don't really believe it. Oh, we've got one just over here, Pam.
Hi. Which of your poems means the most to you?
Which of your poems?
My hearing's terrible.
Which of your poems means the most to you?
Oh, that's a really good question. Which means the most to me? It's usually the one that I've just finished, because I don't know it. It's nice and fresh and new. There is a poem that I particularly like called The Dinner Party, which I'd like to do at the end. I'd like to do at the end of this talk because it's got a bit of, it's a bit of fun. But usually, I've got to acknowledge the importance of I Wish I Looked After My Teeth, because so many people say to me, oh, I like your poem about the teeth, and I told it to my children to try and make them clean the teeth. And teachers say to me, oh, it's an introduction to poetry that makes children realise it can be a bit of fun. But I wrote it, just dashed it off one afternoon. I was a secretary at Smith's Industries in Witney. And I was bored out of my skull, as usual. And I had to go to the dentist at about 6 o'clock at night, which was his last appointment. And I just wrote, I wish I looked after my teeth, as a way of puncturing something I was afraid of, because I was nervous. And I never for a moment thought it would travel around the world and be in anthologies and be translated into Japanese and, all the things that's happened to it. So I Wish I Looked After My Teeth is special for that reason. But there's I will do it for you. I'll do it at the end because hopefully it will leave us with a nice laugh. I wrote a poem for my sister, who sadly I have recently lost, and I loved her dearly. She was my best friend in the world. And I did write her a poem, which I wasn't going to do today, but I will read it to you because it's, I think, for anybody that we love. It's called Jean's poem, because she was my best friend in the world, and I really miss her. This is a poem. I wrote this for my sister, but it's for anybody we love. I don't know if there is a heaven, with green meadows and woods, banks studded with primroses, the sound of water trickling on mossy stones, and things of great beauty. Ferns frozen within icicles, the harebell, the sun on the sea, a snugly wrapped baby, a puppy dog. I don't know if there is a place where animals are treated kindly at last, where there is love and light as we read in our holy books, where we may sit at God's right hand and be judged pound for pound, good for bad, where angels sing up there in the clouds somewhere, in some other sphere, another realm, after we are gone from our homes, gone away, died on such and such a date. But I know this. You were crucial to me all my life. You made the dark times more bearable, the bright days brighter. You punctuated the years with warmth and colour, and knowing that you loved me with all my flaws, I was strengthened and comforted. And after we have gone, wherever we are, whatever we shall be, I will come looking for you, and you come looking for me. Yeah.
Do we have any more questions? There's one just down here at the front. No, don't worry.
Does your husband and all your sons, do they mind what you say about them?
Oh, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. This lady said, do my husband and sons mind what I say about them? I always ask my sons. I always ask them, and if they're going to be embarrassed or upset by anything that I've written, I wouldn't dream of using it. But what they usually say is, I don't care. Yeah, that's because my job is very separate from my family. You know, I don't try poems out on my family or anybody. But if I've written something about that involves them in any way, I always ask them if they mind. And if they do mind, I would drop it immediately. My sons. My husband, on the other hand, is a different... My husband has to put up with it, I'm afraid. But the thing about my husband is he's very confident. You know, I think a lot of men would feel offended or lessened by me writing things like, my husband knows it all and that. But he's got a terrific sense of humour, and he doesn't mind. He knows I don't mean it, and I would be absolutely stymied without him. And but I always ask them, you know, but usually they say, oh, we don't care. So no, they don't mind.
Anyone else? You looked unsure. Were you scratching your head, or was that a question? You have got a question. There's one just at the back.
I'm very friendly.
Half an hour later. Pam, I first noticed you when you appeared on the Michael Parkinson show. He's not with us now, but could you just tell us how you got on with him behind the scenes?
With Michael Parkinson?
Yes.
This gentleman's asking how I got on with Michael Parkinson when I was interviewed by him. I found him a really fine interviewer because he would let you shine. If you could shine, he would give you a question and then he'd get back out of the way, you know, and you could do whatever your strong thing was. He was very, very good. He was probably the best interviewer I was ever done by. Because he would ask you a question and then stand back and let you say what you wanted to say. Whereas, and I'm not being mean, but for instance, I was interviewed a couple of times by Terry Wogan, and I thought he was a genius. You know, he was really wonderful on the radio, but he was different because he topped what you said. Whatever you tried to say that was funny, he would come in and try and top it. And then there was this kind of rivalry that built up that wasn't comfortable. You didn't have the stage, if you know what I mean. You didn't have the stage. You had to sort of come back. If you said something funny, he would say something funnier, if you know what I mean. But Parky was brilliant. Yeah, I was always very nervous. I was terribly nervous in the early days because I went from performing around the folk clubs, you know, to a cider lubricated audience, to a great big paying audience. And when you're on something like Opportunity Knocks, you go from being a cheerful amateur to being thrust in front of a huge paying audience, and I didn't have the confidence really, and I didn't have the material, so it was scary. I was always very nervous, but Parky was kind and a fine interviewer. Yes. Anybody else?
There's one over
this
there.
lady.
There's one just here.
Thank you. I have to stand also. I'm a great believer that Notting Hill has damaged us approaching celebrities to say hello.
I'm struggling to hear that one.
Say that. Production, could we just turn the mics up if we can for the house? Could you say that again?
Yes, I'm a great believer that Notting Hill, the movie, has ruined normal people like me approaching celebrities. And I wonder what your most embarrassing celebrity interviewed kind of person moment would have been.
I have my hearing is not very good.
What would you say your most embarrassing celebrity moment would have been?
My embarrassing celebrity moment.
Like an interview or an interaction or...
Well, I suppose in the early days, people didn't know what to do with me. You know what I mean, in terms of including me in an entertainment environment, I don't think people knew what to do with me. And in the early days, I was put on television shows, which I shouldn't have touched with a barge pole, really. But you don't know. I was very green, and I was signed up to an agent in London who I detested, and I was encouraged to take part in various variety shows. And one of the variety shows was called What's On Next, and it was with William Franklin and Bob Todd and a lot of really good people, and Jim Davidson, and they would put me on after Jim Davidson. Well, I died, it was excruciating, because Jim Davidson would come on with his type of ripe humour, and then I'd come tripping on with my book of poems. It was awful. So I would say that was one of the most uncomfortable experiences, was having to follow Jim Davidson. And I soon realised that if I was going to make any sort of a career for myself, that I would have to do the show myself and, talk to the audience like a friend, which I feel it is, and, try and make an interesting evening of old poems and new poems and funny ones and sad ones, and try and make a varied evening on my own. And if I couldn't do that, I didn't really want to share the stage with Jim Davidson. Not really, no.
Do we have any more? There's one just here at the front.
Thanks, Alice. My hearing's not very good at all.
I'd just like to ask, when you was on Opportunity Knocks, what was the process of getting on to Opportunity Knocks?
The process of getting onto Opportunity Knocks, well, it was very exciting, really. Afterwards, I got a very jaded view of Opportunity Knocks, because in the process of being on it, and shortly afterwards, I lost all the copyrights to my work. And I was very green and naive, and I lost all the copyrights to my work, to everything I had written and everything I was going to write in the future. I was persuaded. Well, I won't go into the details because it's horrible, but I've got very mixed feelings about the lack of protection on Opportunity Knocks for people who wrote original material like me. However, that being said, what happened was I was taking part in a charity show in the village of Bampton near my home, and it was an Edwardian evening, and we got ourselves up in these long dresses and a hat with fruit and parrots and grapes and God knows what. And I did various poems and sang a few songs, and it went really well. Without being arrogant, it went really well. The people laughed, and it was great. And at the end, a bloke called Bill, who was a friend of mine, came up and said, "We want to put you on Opportunity Knocks." And I thought, well, I read somewhere that Opportunity Knocks relieved people of the burden of their own ambition, which I thought was cool. And I was working around the folk clubs. I'm going to stand up. I was working around the folk clubs. I was singing a few songs and throwing in a few poems. And I was being paid £25 a week as a secretary. And I was being paid £12 a night for a gig, you see. And it didn't take me long to realise that 2 evenings at £12 doing something I adored equated to a whole week of typing and being bored out of my skull. And so I thought, well, I'll go for it. I'll just see what they think of my act. So you got a form was sent. They put me up for Opportunity Knocks. And they sent me a form, and you had to write, it said nature of act, right? So I wrote, writer and reciter of humorous verse. Okay, and so anyway, I thought I'll have to wait forever, but it came back very quickly, and they invited me to an audition in Birmingham, and I'd never been to Birmingham in my life, and I went on the train, and I had a pair of black trousers on and a white shirt and a tartan smock, which was highly fashionable at that time, and in which I looked about 9 months pregnant. So and you had to go to the ballroom in this hotel. And I think it was a hotel that had not seen a ball for various decades, because it was a mouldering old ballroom down in the basement. And anyway, I remember it clearly, because it was a big event for me. There was a sign up, a fierce sign, that said, "Only successful candidates will be notified by letter." And that was to stop you going up and saying, what do you think of me act? And there was a panel of judges, like there was Doris Barry and a bloke called Keith Beckett, who was the producer of the programme. They were all lined up along a long desk. And then this notice over them and a solitary microphone in the middle of the floor. And it looked like the loneliest place on God's earth in front of that microphone. Anyway, I was invited to come up to the mic. There were various people there doing all sorts of things. There was a man who played the squeeze box, and there were some dinner plate whirlers, you know, the ones who sort of had to whirl doing this. There was dinner plate and me. And anyway, so I did a poem about a parrot, which I liked because it has a good end. And it's important, I think, if you're trying to do something funny, to give it a good end. It's no good having a strong beginning and a miraculous middle and then a damp squib at the end. It's like anything else, you know, you want a big finish. So I chose this poem about the parrot, which I did, and they asked me to stay behind. So I went and sat down in the ballroom on one of these gilt chairs, and then various other people came up and whirled plates and did other things. And then at the end, they asked me if I had anything else. And I said, yeah, how much do you want? And I did another poem. I think I probably did I Wish I Looked After Me Tea. And the thing that astounded me was that they were laughing. And I thought, well, they won't laugh. You know, they're all judges. They're seeing people trying to be funny all the time. And then Keith Beckett, the producer of the programme, he got up and he walked over to me, and I had no idea what he was going to say. I looked at him like a snake looking at a mongoose. You know, he walked towards him. I didn't have a clue what he was going to say. And he said words to me that I have never forgotten. You know, there's certain words in your life that change your direction. And he said, who writes this stuff? Right. He didn't say what works of poetic genius are they. He said, who writes this stuff? I said, I do. And there was a big sign saying, only successful candidates to be notified. But he said, why, you're certainly on the show. That's what he said. Yeah, and he said, yeah, thank you. Well, I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic. He said, you're certainly on the show, and if any other television company approaches you, you get in touch with us straight away. You know, I walked out feeling, well, I was walking on air. I couldn't believe what had happened. And so that was it. And then that was in the summertime. And then in the November, I was asked to go on to the programme at Thames Television. And I was on a programme, and there was a lot of singers. And they had very glamorous sets. You know, there was one guy who was a bit like Gene Pitney. You remember Gene Pitney? And he came on in front of these aluminium strips. You know those aluminium strips that glitter? And one of the crew was puffing dry ice around his feet. You know, and he came down the steps like this, looking like God, and sang his song. You know, and I hoped that I might be given something equally glamorous. And anyway, as I walked out to my set, I saw this comfy armchair and a little table with photographs on it, and a teapot, right, with a knitted tea cosy on it. And I said, where's my set then? You know, and they said, oh, no, this is your set here. I said, I don't want to sit there. And they said, oh, yeah, you know, it sort of look homely, like you. So I had to sit in this armchair with this bloody teapot and a woolly teapot. And do my stuff from there, and did I Wish I Looked After Me Teeth or something. I think that's what I did, or I did my parrot poem. And anyway, I won. I only won it for 1 week. A sort of myth grew up that I had won it for many times, but I hadn't. I only won it the once, and then the second time I tied with an Australian singer called Tony Monopoly, and that was it. So that's what happened, and that was magical. It was a wonderful time. After that, it all went sour because I didn't know how to protect my copyrights in what I'd written, and I got taken advantage of, which is very common. It certainly was at that time. But that's what happened, and then I was on the Royal Variety performance, and I can't say I enjoyed it that much because I was petrified. You know, imagine to walk out on the stage at the London Palladium, there's the Queen. You know, I was petrified. petrified. But I'm here to tell the tale, so that's a good thing. Thank you for the question. Thanks for the question. Yeah, thanks.
So I think we've got time for one more question, which I think is over here. So this will be the final one.
Thank you. Some years ago at a social function, my wife dressed as Dolly on the dust cart, and I was hoping we were going to hear it today from the originator.
Sorry, can you...
Sorry, I don't think this...
Sorry, didn't you hear me?
That's better.
No,
I'll try again.
Well, I heard about it was about the Dolly on the dust cart.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes, my wife dressed up as Dolly on the dust
really?
coat and recited your poem.
Oh, yes.
And I was hoping today that we would get it from the horse's mouth.
Well, I don't know how much time we've got. Yeah, I can do the Dolly on the dust cart. I haven't done it for some decades, but I've got pretty good memory, so I can try and do it if you like. This is a poem I wrote after I was on Opportunity Knocks, and a book was published, and I was taken at high speed round all sorts of towns and cities to go to the newspaper offices and the radio and the telly to and perform the poems to sell the books. And I got homesick. I was on the road for a long time. I got homesick. And we were driving into Glasgow, and this dust cart was coming towards me. And on the radiator had been affixed a child's dolly, and it was sort of pinioned in a crucified position like this, low down on the radiator, and all the mud and that was going up on its little frock. And the dolly and I, as we passed each other, we exchanged a glance. And this is what the dolly said. If I can remember it, I will do my best. I'm the dolly on the dust cart. I can see you're not impressed. I'm fixed below the driver's cab with wires across me chest. The dustman, see, he noticed me going in the grinder, and he fixed me on the lorry. I don't know if that was kinder. This used to be a lovely dress in pink and pretty shades, but it's torn now being on the cart, and black as the ace of spades. There's dirt all round my face and all across me rosy cheeks. Well, I've had my head thrown back, but we ain't had no rain for weeks. I used to be a mama doll, tipped forward, I'd say, mum, but the rain got in me squeaker, and now I've been struck dumb. I had two lovely blue eyes, but out in the wind and weather, one sunk back in me head like, and one's gone altogether. 'Cause I'm not a soft, flesh-coloured dolly modern children like so much. I'm one of those hard old dollies that are very cold to touch. Modern dolly's underwear leaves me a bit nonplussed. I haven't got a bra, but then I haven't got a bust. But I was happy in my doll's house. I was happy as a queen. I never knew that tiny tears was coming on the scene. I heard of dolls with hair that grew, and I was quite enthralled. And then I realised my head was cold and hard and bald. So I travel with the rubbish out of fashion, out of style, out of my environment for mile after mile. I'm no longer prized. I'm dustbinised, unfeminine, untidy. I'm the dolly on the dust cart, and there's no collection Friday. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So, Pam, we were saying how you like to end on a high. So how would you like to end our In Conversation today?
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm just looking at the time. I don't want to go over into the captain's speech, but I know you're the...
So we've got about, I would say, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you a joke. That'll give us a giggle. There were two electricians working in a big house. I only know 4 jokes. This is number 3. There was there was 2 electricians working in a big house, and they were up a ladder fitting an electrical fitting, and they were mucking about horseplay, and one of them had a Black & Decker drill, and they were flailing around, mucking around, acting the fool, and suddenly, to his horror, the electrician at the top of the stairs realised that with the Black & Decker drill, he had cut off his own ear. He had cut off his own ear, and he was appalled. He was appalled, and he called down to his friend at the bottom of the ladder, and he said, "Oh my God, I've cut my ear off. I've cut my ear off. Can you see it?" And his friend at the bottom of the ladder saying, "Oh my God, how awful. Oh, here's one." He said, "Here's one. Is this yours? Is this yours?" And the man at the top of the ladder said, "No, that's not mine. Mine had a pencil behind it." Thank you. Yes, I've got a poem I'd like to finish with, which is my current favourite. But firstly, I'd like to thank Alex and all the lovely staff and Patrick and all the gang who have... And I'd like to thank all you lovely audience on the Queen Anne for being so welcoming to me. Everybody stopped me and said, "Oh, I enjoyed your show," and that's very, very nice. So thank you all for being so supportive and interested in what I've written. It's been great. We've had a lovely, lovely holiday. So I'm going to finish with this poem, if that's all right, Alex. And this is one, we downsized to another house, and it had a dining room, and I cleared out all the junk, and I thought I'd have a dinner party. And I'm not used to giving dinner parties, and it was a big mistake. It seemed like such a good idea, a flash of inspiration. To hold a dinner party, yes, out went the invitations. A proper dinner party too, traditional and smart, with all my oldest, dearest friends, the darlings of my heart. We'd clear the dining table of each dog-eared magazine. We'd dust around the skirting boards, the place would be pristine. I'd plan a lovely menu. I'd drive the Hoover around the floor and see again our carpet after 18 months or more. I'd plan a lovely menu, 7 courses at the least, an absolute abundance, an ambrosia, a feast, with table linen matching and the candles burning bright. What a celebration, what a banquet, what a night. Yeah, well, that was then and this is now, and one thing's very clear. I can't imagine why I thought this was a good idea. Today's the day, tonight's the night, they'll be here in an hour. I'm absolutely shattered and I haven't had a shower. I haven't chilled the wine or put the nibbles in a bowl. I found my silver cutlery, it's all as black as coal. I haven't found the candles, we are making do with these. One's a stump and one is bent at 45 degrees. I haven't folded napkins in sophisticated shapes or beautified a plate of cheese with celery and grapes. I haven't spent the morning on a floral centerpiece, and I'm skidding round the kitchen floor on half an inch of grease. My husband's disappeared. I don't know where he's hiding now. He hasn't helped at all. We've had a monumental row. I don't know where the day is gone, and I am filled with dread. Forget the conversation, I just want to go to bed. The guests I thought were witty, their attractiveness has palled. The men once so enticing, now they're boring and they're bald. The women all are shadows of their former vibrant selves. They're all in sizes 24, they used to be in 12s. I stupidly asked George, I used to think him quite a card, not meaning to be spiteful, now he's just a tub of lard. He'll bring his lovely wife, she'll tell you all about her back. One's morbidly obese and one's a hypochondriac. I haven't found the coffee cups, we'll have to have the mugs. the crumbles looking soggy and the kale was full of slugs. The meat is a disaster, undercooked and full of blood. The dogs pooed on the carpet. And I haven't done the spuds. You know, I thought I'd like to do this, but I don't know where to start. I thought I'd like to see them, but I've had a change of heart. They're old, recycled stories and voracious appetites. Forget the darlings of my heart, they're all a bunch of shites. I meant to be the glam hostess. Well, kiss goodbye to that. I haven't changed my frock. I smell attractively of fat. I've done my best. It's all gone west. I've ruined all the grub. Too late. Here come the bastards now. Let's all go down the pub.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pam Ayres.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.